Welcome to Lecture 2 of Animal Behavior. In today's lecture, we will explore some of the most fascinating aspects of how animals behave, communicate, make decisions, and interact with their environment. Animal behavior is not simply a collection of random actions. Every movement, signal, display, and response shown by an animal has evolved over millions of years to increase its chances of survival and reproduction. In this lecture, we will focus on four major concepts. First, we will study motivation and decision-making. We will understand why animals perform particular behaviors, how internal drives such as hunger and thirst influence actions, and how animals make choices between different behavioral options. Next, we will discuss conflict behavior. Animals often face situations where two motivations compete with each other, for example, whether to fight or flee, approach or avoid, attack or escape. We will examine territorial conflicts, threat displays, displacement activities, and aggressive interactions. The third topic is stimuli and communication. Animals constantly receive information from their environment through various sensory systems. We will learn how signals are detected, how important stimuli trigger behavioral responses, and how animals communicate using visual, auditory, tactile, and chemical signals. Finally, we will explore pheromones, which are chemical messengers used by animals to communicate with members of the same species. We will examine their biological functions in both vertebrates and invertebrates and discuss their practical applications in agriculture, pest management, and wildlife studies. By the end of this lecture, you should be able to explain the mechanisms that drive animal behavior, understand different forms of communication, and appreciate the role of chemical signaling in animal interactions. Every scientific topic becomes easier to understand when we know what we are expected to learn from it. By the end of this lecture, you should be able to achieve 6 important learning objectives related to animal behavior. Learning Outcome 1: Motivation and Drive. First, you should be able to define motivation and drive, and explain how these internal factors influence animal behavior. Animals do not behave randomly. Every action is usually driven by some internal need such as hunger, thirst, reproduction, or safety. Understanding motivation helps us answer an important question. Why does an animal perform a particular behavior at a particular time? Motivation is an internal physiological or psychological state that initiates, directs, and maintains behavior in an organism. In simple terms, motivation is the force that drives an animal to perform a particular action. Without motivation, behavior would not occur. For example, a hungry lion hunts because it is motivated by hunger. A thirsty camel searches for water because it is motivated by thirst. Similarly, migratory birds travel long distances and peacocks display their feathers during the breeding season due to specific motivations. Motivation performs 3 important functions. It initiates behavior, starts an action. It directs behavior, guides the animal toward a goal. It maintains behavior, keeps the animal performing the activity until the need is satisfied. Motivation is influenced by 2 major factors. Internal factors, such as hunger, thirst, hormones, reproductive condition, and biological rhythms. External factors, such as food availability, predators, environmental conditions, and the presence of mates. Motivation arises from various internal and external sources that create a need and drive an animal to act. Internal sources. These originate within the body and include hunger and thirst. Hormonal influences, biological rhythms, reproductive needs, homeostatic imbalances. For example, when an animal becomes hungry, the internal need for food creates motivation to search for and obtain food. External sources. These originate from the environment and include availability of food, presence of predators, environmental conditions, presence of mates, territory, and social interactions. For example, the sight of prey may stimulate a predator to hunt, while the presence of a rival may trigger territorial behavior. Flow of motivation. The process generally follows a simple sequence. Need-drive behavior needs satisfaction. When a need arises, it creates a drive. This drive motivates behavior directed toward achieving a goal. Once the goal is achieved, the need is satisfied and the drive decreases. Examples: hunger motivates a lion to hunt, thirst motivates a camel to seek water, reproductive motivation causes a peacock to display its feathers, migratory motivation drives birds to travel seasonally. Decision-making is the process by which an animal chooses one behavioral option from several alternatives to achieve a specific goal. Animals constantly face choices. For example, should a bird build its nest here or somewhere else? Should a deer continue feeding or escape from a predator? Should an animal fight for territory or retreat? To make these decisions, animals generally follow a sequence. Need: perceive options, evaluate alternatives, choose, act. The selected behavior is usually the one that provides the greatest benefit with the lowest cost or risk. Factors affecting decision-making. Several factors influence an animal's choice. Strength of motivation, previous experience, hunger or thirst level, predation risk, environmental conditions, resource availability, social interactions. Examples: birds select safe nesting sites to improve offspring survival. Bees choose flowers that provide maximum nectar rewards. Deer assess their opponent's strength before deciding to fight or withdraw. Fish select shelters that offer protection from predators. Decision-making in animals occurs at different scales, ranging from immediate responses to long-term life history decisions. Animals must constantly choose behaviors that maximize their chances of survival and reproduction. Short-term decisions. These are rapid decisions made within seconds or minutes. Examples include escaping from a predator, capturing prey, choosing a feeding site, seeking shelter during danger. Such decisions require quick assessment of risks and rewards. For example, a rabbit must instantly decide whether to continue feeding or run away when it detects a predator nearby. Long-term decisions. These decisions affect the animal's future survival and reproductive success. Examples include migration routes, habitat selection, territory establishment, mate selection, parental investment. These decisions usually involve greater energy expenditure and have long-lasting consequences. For example, migratory birds must choose routes that provide food resources and safe resting areas during their journey. Optimal decision-making. Animals generally follow the principle of maximizing survival, reproductive success, while minimizing energy expenditure, risk of injury, predation risk. Example: a deer deciding whether to fight a rival for territory must weigh potential benefit, access to mates, against potential cost, injury or death. A drive is an internal state of tension or need that motivates an animal to perform a particular behavior. In simple words, drive is the internal force or energy that pushes an animal to act. For example, when an animal becomes hungry, the lack of food creates a drive. This drive motivates the animal to search for food and continue feeding until the hunger is satisfied. How does a drive work? The process follows a simple sequence. Need or deficiency drive, behavior satisfaction, homeostasis. For example, hunger creates a feeding drive, the animal searches for food, food is consumed, hunger is reduced, internal balance, or homeostasis, is restored. Characteristics of drives. Drives originate from internal needs. Create physiological or psychological tension. Direct behavior toward a goal. Decrease once the need is satisfied. Vary in strength and duration. Types of drives. Primary drives, innate. These are essential for survival. Hunger, thirst, sleep, avoidance of pain, reproduction. Secondary drives, learned. These develop through experience. Curiosity, exploration, achievement, social attachment. Examples: hunger drive motivates a lion to hunt, a thirst drive motivates a camel to seek water, parental drive motivates birds to care for their young, or reproductive drive motivates a peacock to display its feathers during the breeding season. According to Clark Hull, behavior occurs because animals are motivated to reduce internal tension or discomfort caused by biological needs. The central idea is simple. Need leads to drive, leads to behavior, leads to drive reduction, leads to homeostasis. For example, when an animal becomes hungry, a physiological need develops. This creates a drive, which motivates the animal to search for food. After eating, the hunger decreases, the drive is reduced, and internal balance, or homeostasis, is restored. Main assumptions of the theory. Biological needs create drives. Drives generate internal tension. Behavior is performed to reduce this tension. Once the need is satisfied, the drive decreases. Learning and past experience influence how effectively an animal reduces its drive. Examples: a hungry lion hunts prey to reduce hunger. A thirsty camel searches for water to reduce thirst. Parent birds feed their chicks to satisfy parental drives. A peacock displays during courtship until reproductive goals are achieved. Importance of the theory. This theory explains why many behaviors are goal-directed and how animals maintain internal balance through their actions. Although modern theories recognize additional factors such as cognition and emotions, Hull's theory remains a fundamental concept in understanding motivation. One of the earliest models used to explain motivation is the hydraulic model proposed by Konrad Lorenz. Lorenz compared motivation to water pressure building up inside a tank. According to this model, when a biological need is not satisfied, internal motivational energy gradually accumulates, just like water filling a reservoir. As this pressure increases, the animal becomes more likely to perform a particular behavior. How does the hydraulic model work? The process can be understood in 5 simple steps. A biological need arises, internal motivational pressure builds up. A suitable stimulus triggers behavior. The behavior releases the accumulated pressure, balance or equilibrium is restored. Example. Consider a hungry lion. As hunger increases, motivational pressure builds up inside the animal. When prey is detected, the lion hunts and feeds. After eating, hunger decreases, the pressure is released, and the animal returns to a balanced state. Key features of the hydraulic model. Motivation accumulates over time. Unmet needs increase internal pressure. Behavior acts as an outlet to release this pressure. Satisfaction of the need reduces motivation. The cycle begins again when a new need arises. Importance. This model helped scientists understand how internal states influence behavior and laid the foundation for later theories of motivation. Although modern research shows that behavior is more complex than a simple pressure release system, the hydraulic model remains an important historical concept in animal behavior studies. Apart from the hydraulic model, scientists have proposed other models to explain how animals regulate their behavior and make decisions. 1. Homeostatic model. The homeostatic model suggests that animals behave in ways that help maintain a stable internal environment, known as homeostasis. When internal conditions change, corrective behaviors are activated to restore balance. Examples: feeling thirsty leads to drinking water, feeling cold leads to seeking warmth, low blood sugar leads to feeding behavior. The main goal is to keep physiological conditions within normal limits. 2. Cost-benefit model. According to this model, animals evaluate the benefits and costs of a behavior before performing it. A behavior is likely to occur when benefits greater than the costs. Examples: a cheetah hunts only if the energy gained exceeds the energy spent. A deer may fight for territory only if the potential reproductive benefits outweigh the risk of injury. This model helps explain rational decision-making in animals. 3. Optimal foraging theory, OFT. Optimal foraging theory states that animals try to obtain the maximum energy gain while spending the least amount of time and energy. Animals choose food sources that provide the greatest return. Examples: bees visit flowers with the highest nectar reward. Birds forage in areas where food is abundant. Squirrels select food items that provide maximum energy. This strategy increases survival and reproductive success. Stress is the body's response to any challenge or threat that disturbs normal internal balance, or homeostasis. In simple terms, stress helps animals cope with difficult or dangerous situations. What causes stress? Common stressors include predators and threats, extreme temperatures, food and water scarcity, habitat loss, disease and injury, social competition and overcrowding. When animals encounter these stressors, their bodies activate a stress response. Stress response pathway. The stress response follows this sequence. Stressor: hypothalamus, pituitary gland, adrenal gland, stress hormones. This results in increased heart rate, increased alertness, more energy availability, enhanced chances of survival. This is often called the fight, flight, or freeze response. Types of stress. Acute stress. Short-term, usually beneficial, helps animals respond to emergencies. Chronic stress. Long-term, harmful to health, reduces growth, immunity, and reproductive success. Examples: an antelope chased by a predator experiences acute stress. Overcrowded poultry may suffer chronic stress. Polar bears facing habitat loss experience environmental stress. Conflict behavior occurs when an animal experiences two or more competing motivations at the same time. In such situations, the animal must decide which behavior to perform and which behavior to suppress. Simply put, conflict arises when an animal wants to do two different things simultaneously. Examples of conflict behavior. A hungry deer wants to drink water but also fears predators nearby. A lion wants to attack prey but risks injury from a stronger rival. A bird wants to defend its territory but wants to avoid physical fighting. These situations create behavioral conflict. Types of conflict. 1. Approach avoidance conflict. The animal is attracted to a goal but also fears a negative consequence. Example: food is available, but a predator is nearby. 2. Approach conflict. The animal must choose between two desirable options. Example: choosing between two food sources or two potential mates. 3. Avoidance conflict. The animal must choose between two unpleasant situations. Example: escaping from one danger may expose it to another danger. 4. Multiple approach and avoidance conflict. Several attractive and risky factors occur simultaneously. Example: selecting a nesting site that is safe but far from food resources. Why is conflict behavior important? It helps us understand animal decision-making, survival strategies, resource utilization, reproductive success, behavioral adaptations, possible outcomes. The animal may approach the goal, avoid the situation, show compromise behavior, delay the decision, freeze temporarily. A territory is an area that an animal actively defends against other individuals of the same species. Animals defend territories because they contain valuable resources such as food, water, shelter, nesting sites, mates. When another individual enters or attempts to take over this area, a territorial conflict occurs. Types of territorial conflicts. Some common forms include heavy checkmark intruder conflict, when an outsider enters an established territory. Heavy checkmark border conflict, when neighboring territories overlap. Heavy checkmark usurpation conflict, when a challenger attempts to take control of a territory. Stages of territorial conflict. Territorial disputes usually follow a sequence: detection, assessment, threat, display, confrontation, outcome. In many cases, animals settle conflicts through displays and signals without engaging in physical combat. Methods of territory defense. Animals use different strategies to defend territories. Visual displays, vocalizations, and calls, scent marking. Patrolling boundaries. Physical fighting. These methods help communicate ownership and reduce unnecessary injury. Examples: stags clash using antlers during the breeding season. Tigers mark territories with scent and vocal signals. Birds defend nesting sites from intruders. Male lions compete for territories and mating opportunities. Threat displays are behavioral signals used by animals to communicate aggression, warning, or dominance without engaging in direct physical combat. These displays help animals avoid costly fights, reduce injury risk, and conserve energy. Threat displays can be of different types. Visual displays include body postures, bright colors, and facial expressions. Auditory displays involve sounds such as roars, growls, hisses, and calls. Chemical displays use pheromones or scent markings, while tactile displays involve touch or vibration signals. An effective threat display usually follows 5 stages: attracting the rival's attention, allowing assessment of strength, intimidating the opponent, communicating a warning message, and finally helping avoid conflict. Many factors influence the effectiveness of threat displays, including the animal's sex, age, experience, physical condition, resource value, and the presence of an audience. Common examples include a cobra spreading its hood, a peacock displaying its feathers, wolves baring their teeth, lions roaring loudly, and frill-necked lizards expanding their neck frill. The key point is that threat displays are important communication tools that help establish dominance, defend territories, and maintain social stability while minimizing the costs of physical conflict. Presentation time, 1 minute 30 seconds. Now let us look at the different strategies animals use during threat displays. Threat displays are specialized behaviors that allow animals to communicate aggression, strength, or dominance without engaging in costly physical fights. The main purpose is to intimidate opponents and avoid injury. Common threat display strategies. 1. Making the body appear larger. Many animals increase their apparent size to scare rivals. Examples: cobra spreading its hood, frill-necked lizard expanding its frill, pufferfish inflating its body. A larger appearance often discourages attackers. 2. Displaying weapons. Animals may expose structures used for fighting. Examples: deer displaying antlers, walrus showing tusks, baboons exposing canine teeth. These displays signal fighting ability without actual combat. 3. Displaying bright colors and patterns. Many species use striking visual signals to intimidate opponents. Examples: peacock displaying its tail feathers, poison dart frogs displaying bright colors. Such displays attract attention and communicate strength or fitness. 4. Adopting threatening postures. Animals may change body posture to appear more dominant. Examples: gorilla chest beating, cat arching its back, wolf standing stiffly with raised head. These postures warn rivals to stay away. 5. Using sound signals. Vocalizations are powerful threat signals. Examples: lion roaring, wolf growling, snake hissing. These sounds communicate aggression and territorial ownership. Why are threat displays important? Threat displays help animals avoid physical injury, save energy, establish dominance, protect territories and mates, maintain social order. Displacement activities occur when an animal experiences internal conflict, frustration, or uncertainty and performs a behavior that appears unrelated to the situation. In simple terms, when an animal cannot decide what to do, it may perform a completely different activity to relieve tension. Why do displacement activities occur? These behaviors usually appear when 2 motivations conflict with each other. The animal is prevented from performing its intended behavior. The animal feels stressed or uncertain. Social tension is present. Displacement activities help reduce emotional and physiological tension. Common examples: birds may preen their feathers during a territorial dispute. Cats may groom themselves when stressed. Dogs may shake their bodies after a threatening encounter. Primates may groom themselves or others during social conflicts. These behaviors are often unrelated to the original conflict but help the animal cope with stress. When threat displays and warning signals fail to resolve a conflict, animals may engage in physical fighting. Fighting behavior is the most extreme form of conflict behavior and involves direct physical aggression between individuals competing for valuable resources. Why do animals fight? Animals commonly fight for food resources, access to food and feeding areas, mates, competition for breeding opportunities, territories, ownership and defense of space, dominance, establishing social rank within a group, protection of offspring, defending young from threats, escalation of conflict. Most conflicts follow a sequence. Resource competition leads to Threat displays. Leads to. Assessment of opponent. Leads to. Physical fighting. Leads to. Winner and loser determined. Only when earlier stages fail does actual combat occur. Resource holding potential, RHP. An important concept in animal fighting is resource holding potential, or RHP. It refers to an animal's ability to win a contest. Factors influencing RHP include body size, strength, age, experience, health condition. Animals often assess an opponent's RHP before deciding whether to fight. Costs of fighting. Fighting can be very expensive for animals. Potential costs include injury, energy loss, time consumption, increased disease risk, death. Because of these risks, most animals try to avoid unnecessary combat. Benefits of fighting. If successful, the rewards may include territory ownership, access to mates, better food resources, higher social status, increased reproductive success. Examples in nature. Red deer males fight using antlers during the breeding season. Lions fight for pride control and mating rights. Elephant seals engage in intense combat to establish dominance. Cichlid fish fight over breeding territories. Animals constantly interact with their environment. To survive, they must detect changes around them and respond appropriately. These changes are called stimuli. A stimulus is any change in the internal or external environment that produces a response in an organism. Types of stimuli. There are two main types. Internal stimuli. These originate within the body. Examples: hunger, thirst, hormonal changes, reproductive condition. These stimuli motivate animals to perform behaviors that maintain internal balance. External stimuli. These come from the environment. Examples: light, sound, temperature, touch, presence of predators or mates. Animals use sensory organs to detect these external cues. Animals perceive and interact with the world through specialized sensory systems. Different species have evolved different sensory capacities depending on their habitat, lifestyle, and survival needs. Sensory systems help animals detect food, predators, mates, and environmental changes. Vision, sight. Vision is one of the most important senses in many animals. It helps in detecting prey and predators, recognizing mates, navigation, communication. Examples: eagles can spot prey from great distances. Nocturnal animals have specialized eyes for low-light vision. Hearing, audition. Hearing allows animals to detect sounds and vibrations. It is important for communication, predator detection, orientation. Examples: owls can locate prey using precise hearing. Bats use echolocation to navigate and hunt in darkness. Smell, olfaction. The sense of smell detects chemical signals in the environment. Functions include finding food, recognizing mates, territorial identification. Examples: dogs possess an extremely sensitive sense of smell. Sharks can detect tiny amounts of blood in water. Taste, gustation. Taste helps animals evaluate food quality and detect harmful substances. Examples: butterflies taste using receptors on their feet. Catfish possess taste buds over much of their body surface. Touch, somatosensation. Touch detects pressure, vibration, temperature, and pain. It is important for exploration, protection, social interactions. Examples: cat whiskers detect nearby objects and air movements. Star-nosed moles possess highly sensitive touch organs. Balance, equilibrium. Balance helps animals maintain body posture and orientation. Examples: birds maintain stability during flight. Fish use innery structures to maintain balance underwater. Electroreception. Some aquatic animals can detect weak electrical fields. Examples: sharks locate hidden prey using electroreceptors. Electric fish use electrical signals for navigation and communication. Specialized sensory adaptations. Many animals possess extraordinary sensory abilities. Migratory birds use Earth's magnetic field for navigation. Snakes detect infrared radiation from warm-blooded prey. Honeybees can see ultraviolet patterns on flowers. Dolphins use echolocation for hunting and navigation. A sign stimulus is a specific signal in the environment that triggers a particular behavioral response in an animal. These stimuli act as cues that tell the animal when and how to respond. What is a sign stimulus? A sign stimulus can be visual, auditory, chemical, tactile, environmental. When detected, it often triggers a predictable behavioral response. Examples of sign stimuli: visual stimulus. Young gull chicks peck at the red spot on the parent's beak. This stimulus triggers the parent bird to regurgitate food. Auditory stimulus. The alarm call of a monkey or bird immediately causes nearby individuals to become alert or flee. Chemical stimulus. Pheromones released by insects can attract mates or guide colony members. Tactile stimulus. Touching a chick's back may stimulate begging behavior. Light stimulus. Changes in day length can trigger seasonal breeding behavior in many animals. Fixed action pattern, FAP. Many sign stimuli trigger a fixed action pattern. A fixed action pattern is innate, stereotyped, predictable, performed in the same way each time. Once initiated, it usually continues to completion. Example: egg-rolling behavior in geese. Supernormal stimuli. Sometimes animals respond even more strongly to an exaggerated version of a sign stimulus. This is called a supernormal stimulus. Example: birds may prefer larger artificial eggs over their own natural eggs. This demonstrates how powerful key stimuli can be. Animals live in environments filled with countless stimuli. If they responded to every sound, smell, movement, or signal, they would quickly become overwhelmed. Therefore, animals use a process called stimulus filtering. Stimulus filtering is the ability of animals to select important stimuli and ignore irrelevant information. This helps them focus on what matters most for survival and reproduction. What is stimulus filtering? Stimulus filtering acts like a biological filter. Just as a funnel separates useful material from unwanted material, animals filter environmental information and respond only to relevant signals. Factors affecting stimulus filtering. Animals are more likely to notice stimuli that are heavy checkmark relevant to survival, heavy checkmark strong or intense, heavy checkmark new or unusual, heavy checkmark associated with previous experience, heavy checkmark related to their current motivation. For example, a hungry animal pays more attention to food-related cues than to unrelated stimuli. Examples in animals. A female frog responds to the mating call of her own species while ignoring calls of other species. Birds in a flock react quickly to alarm calls but ignore many harmless background sounds. Bees focus on flowers containing nectar and ignore flowers without rewards. A rabbit detects the sound of an approaching predator while ignoring less important environmental noises. Types of filtering. Eyes. Perceptual filtering occurs at the sensory level before conscious awareness. Example: not noticing every object in a crowded environment. Attentional filtering. The brain selectively focuses on certain stimuli while ignoring others. Example: focusing on a teacher's voice in a noisy classroom. Pawprints. Behavioral filtering. Animals respond to some stimuli but not to others. Example: a bird responding to food cues while ignoring moving leaves. Importance of stimulus filtering. Stimulus filtering helps animals Avoid information overload. Save time and energy. Detect predators quickly. Locate food efficiently. Improve decision-making. Increase survival and fitness. Consequences of poor filtering. Without effective filtering, animals become distracted. Important signals may be missed. Energy is wasted. Survival chances decrease. Why is stimulus filtering important? Without filtering, animals would become overwhelmed by too much information. Stimulus filtering helps them. Detect predators quickly. Locate food efficiently. Find mates. Save energy and time. Improve survival. Examples. A female frog responds only to the mating call of her own species. Bees focus on flowers containing nectar and ignore unrewarding flowers. A rabbit notices the sound of a predator but ignores harmless background noises. Birds react to alarm calls while ignoring many everyday sounds. Factors affecting filtering. Animals pay more attention to stimuli that are important for survival. Strong or intense. New or unusual. Related to previous experience. Connected to their current needs. For example, a hungry animal pays greater attention to food-related cues. Types of filtering. Perceptual filtering, selection occurs at the sensory level. Attentional filtering, the brain focuses on specific stimuli. Behavioral filtering, animals respond only to selected signals. Animals do not live in isolation. They constantly exchange information with other individuals through a process known as communication. Animal communication is the transfer of information from a sender to a receiver, resulting in a behavioral response. Communication plays a vital role in survival, reproduction, and social interactions. Functions of communication. Animals communicate to find and attract mates, defend territories, warn about predators, maintain social relationships, coordinate group activities, care for offspring. Types of animal communication. Visual communication. Body postures, colors, and displays. Example, peacock displaying its feathers. Acoustic communication. Sounds, calls, and songs. Example, bird songs and whale calls. Chemical communication. Pheromones and scent marking. Example, ant trails and territorial marking. Tactile communication. Touch and physical contact. Example, grooming in primates. Vibrational communication. Signals transmitted through ground or water. Example, spider web vibrations and elephant foot stomping. Communication process. The communication pathway is: sender leads to signal leads to receiver leads to response. For communication to be successful, the receiver must correctly detect and interpret the signal. Examples in nature. Honeybee waggle dance indicates the location of food. Dolphins use clicks and whistles for communication and navigation. Birds use alarm calls to warn others of danger. Primates communicate using facial expressions and gestures. Animals communicate not only through sounds and visual displays but also through chemicals. These chemical signals are known as pheromones. Pheromones are chemical substances released by one individual that influence the behavior or physiology of another member of the same species. They act as a powerful form of communication without direct contact. Pheromones are species-specific chemical signals. They are produced in very small amounts. They are detected by specialized receptors. They can trigger immediate or long-term behavioral and physiological responses. Pheromones are especially important in insects but are also found in vertebrates. Sex pheromones attract potential mates. A classic example is the female silk moth, which attracts males by releasing the pheromone bombicle. Alarm pheromones warn other individuals about danger. Honeybees release alarm pheromones during attacks to alert colony members. Trail pheromones guide individuals to food sources. Ants leave chemical trails that help nest mates locate food efficiently. Aggregation pheromones bring individuals together. Termites use aggregation pheromones during colony formation and maintenance. Primer pheromones produce long-term physiological changes in the receiving individual. The action of pheromones follows a simple sequence. The pheromone is released into the environment. It disperses through air, water, or direct contact. It is detected by specialized sensory receptors. The nervous system processes the signal. A specific behavioral or physiological response is then produced. Ants use trail pheromones to locate and return to food sources. Honeybees use alarm pheromones to alert colony members to threats. Female silk moths release sex pheromones to attract male partners. Many mammals use scent marking to establish and defend territories. Fish use pheromones during reproductive and social activities. Pheromones help animals locate mates. They help animals avoid predators and respond to danger. They assist in marking and defending territories. They coordinate social behavior within groups. They help organize colonies and maintain social structure. Overall, pheromones are highly effective chemical communication signals that play a vital role in survival, reproduction, and social organization in animals. Pheromones are not only important for communication, but they also produce specific biological effects and have numerous applications in science, agriculture, and wildlife management. These chemical signals influence behavior, physiology, reproduction, and social organization in both vertebrates and invertebrates. One of the most important biological actions of pheromones is their role in reproduction. Sex pheromones help attract mates and synchronize breeding activities. For example, female silk moths release pheromones that attract males over long distances. Pheromones also function as alarm signals. Alarm pheromones warn other individuals about potential danger and help coordinate defensive responses. Honeybees release alarm pheromones when threatened, alerting other colony members to attack or defend the hive. Aggregation pheromones bring individuals together and promote group formation. Termites use aggregation pheromones to establish and maintain colonies. Trail pheromones guide colony members to important resources such as food. Ants deposit pheromone trails that can be followed by other members of the colony. Pheromones are also involved in territorial marking. Many mammals use urine, glandular secretions, and scent marks to establish territory boundaries and communicate ownership. Another important function is physiological regulation. Certain pheromones influence growth, development, reproduction, and social organization. For example, queen pheromones regulate the behavior and reproductive activities of worker ants and honeybees. In vertebrates, pheromones are widely used for communication. Fish release pheromones during spawning and reproductive activities. Many mammals use scent marking for territorial recognition and social communication. Reptiles use chemical cues during courtship and mate selection. Some amphibians release pheromones to attract potential mates during the breeding season. In invertebrates, pheromone communication is especially well developed. Ants use both trail and alarm pheromones for colony coordination. Honeybees rely on alarm pheromones for colony defense. Silk moths use sex pheromones for mate attraction. Termites use aggregation pheromones to facilitate colony formation and maintenance. Pheromones have several practical applications. In agriculture, pheromone traps are used for environmentally friendly pest management and monitoring insect populations. In disease vector control, pheromones help monitor mosquito populations and other disease-carrying insects. Researchers use pheromones to study animal behavior, communication, and social organization. In wildlife conservation, pheromone-based techniques assist in monitoring, managing, and conserving animal populations. Pheromones offer several advantages. They are highly species-specific and target only the intended organisms. They are environmentally friendly and produce minimal ecological impact. They remain effective even at extremely low concentrations. They also reduce dependence on chemical pesticides and contribute to sustainable pest management strategies. Overall, pheromones are powerful chemical messengers that influence behavior and physiology while providing valuable applications in agriculture, research, public health, and wildlife conservation. Thank you for your attention and participation. Keep learning, stay curious, and continue exploring the wonderful world of animal behavior.